Good day, everyone. This is part 2 of the Module 7, Developing an Excel Application. Part 2 of the Module 7, Developing an Excel Application. Part 1, I completed steps 1 through 14. This one, I will be completing steps 15 through 23. I'm on page EX454 at the very bottom, beginning with step 15. Again, we're using the workbook called Youth. So if you need to, reopen that workbook that you saved for steps 1 through 14. I have already opened mine up. Again, it's called Youth. Step 15, create a macro named PDF. So I'm going to go to the developer ribbon, which we activated in step 13. A new ribbon called developer. I'm going to click on developer and I'm going to click on record macro. Now don't worry, it's not actually recording anything yet. It won't record anything until I finish filling out this information and clicking OK. Then the recorder will be running. And it will record everything I do right and everything I do wrong. So we have to be very careful to do everything correctly. All right, so the macro name is PDF event, all one word. You're not allowed to have spaces in macro names. So PDF event, all one word. We're going to use a control key of a lowercase e. Now, honestly, most people do not use this in regards to macros because it's very difficult to remember any of the shortcuts, like Control C for copy and Control V for paste. So typically people do not use a control key here, but they're instructing me to do so, so I will. We're always going to store it as this workbook, so don't change that option. Always store it as this workbook. In the description, they want me to put created space 12/7/2017 period. Save receipt area, comma, A18 colon F37, comma, as a PDF file. Okay. Now, as soon as I click OK, I do have to be really careful because it's going to record every click I do, everything I do. So be very careful with this. So I'm going to click OK. The recorder is now on. So I'm going to read the instructions and follow them very carefully. Step 15A, make the receipt worksheet the active sheet. So I come down here and click on the tab that says receipt to make that worksheet the active worksheet. Step B, select the range A18 to F37. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to select A18 to F37. Then continuing with step B, it says, and then set the selected range as the print area. There, I have to go to page layout, print area, and set print area. Step C, open the page setup dialog box. On the page layout, page setup, in the bottom right-hand corner of that group, I have a button that I can click on that will take me to the page setup dialog box. On the margins tab, so I'm going to click the margins tab, make sure that the print area is centered horizontally on the page. So I check the box that says horizontally at the bottom here. I can then click OK. Step D on page EX455. Export the worksheet to create a PDF XPS document with the file name Event Receipt saved in the location specified by your instructor. I'm going to save mine on my desktop just so I know where to find it later. If you have a special folder you want to save it to, that's fine too. So I go to the File drop-down menu and I click Export. Export. Here I have a Create PDF XPS button. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to call it Event Receipt. And I'm going to specify that I want to save it to my desktop. and then I'm going to click Publish. When I do that, it opens up my PDF for the print area that I set. Step E says to close the PDF. So I'm going to click the X for just the PDF XPS viewer. So I close that. Step F, clear the print area. So I go to print area, drop the arrow down, and click clear print area. Step G, open the page setup dialog box. Same little arrow in the bottom right hand corner. Click on that to open up the print page setup dialog box. On the margins tab, so I go back to the margins tab, uncheck the horizontal center on page box. Click OK. Step H, in the receipt worksheet, which we're currently in, make cell A1 the active worksheet. So I'm going to scroll up, click on A1, and now I'm done. So I'm going to stop my macro by going to the Developer tab and clicking Stop Recording. You just recorded your first macro. Good job. We're going to record a second one now. Again, be very, very careful. Go slow if you need to, but slow and accurate is far best to have. This one says create a macro named transfer data. So let's go back to Developer and record macro. Remember, it's not recording anything at this point. They want me to call it transfer data. Again, all one word. You're not allowed to have a space in a macro name. For this one, we're going to do a shortcut key of Control and a lowercase d. We're always going to save it in this workbook. And this description, we're going to say created 12/7/2017. Copy values in the transfer area of the receipt worksheet to the registration data worksheet. Okay, again, before we click OK, be very careful. This has steps A through L, and we have to do them all perfectly. So let's slow down and let's make sure we get this correct. So click OK. The recorder is now on. A, remove worksheet protection from the registration data worksheet. So I click on registration data. I go to the review ribbon and unprotect sheet. That's step A. Step B, make the receipt worksheet the active worksheet. So I go down and click on the receipt worksheet to make it the active worksheet. Step C, select the range A40 to F40. So I'm going to scroll down. A40 to F40. So I'm going to select that range. So C says select the range and then copy it to the clipboard. So I'm going to go to the home ribbon and click on copy. And that put it out on my clipboard. Step D, go to the registration data worksheet. So now I click on registration data worksheet. Step E, click cell A1. So I click on A1. Then press the control, so hold down your control key and hit the down arrow key to go to the last row with values. So hold down your control key, hit the down arrow to take you down to the last row with values, which should have taken you to A3. Step F, on the Developer tab, so we're going to go back up to the Developer tab. In the Code group, first group here, click Use Relative Reference, right there, button. So we're just going to click it. Step G, move down one row. So use your down arrow one time to move down one row. Step H, on the Developer tab in the Code group, click the Use Relative Reference button. That will turn this off. So we click on it again, this time for Step H. Step I, paste the values you copied in the registration data worksheet. So we're going to go to the Home ribbon and just simply click Paste. Step J, click cell A1. So click back on A1. K, step 16K, turn on worksheet protection for the registration data worksheet. So we go back to Review and back to Protect Sheet. No password, simply click OK. Step L, my last step, go to the Receipt worksheet. So I'll click on the Receipt worksheet. Then make cell B3 the active cell. So I scroll up and click on B3. I am all done, so I'm going to turn off my macro by going back to the Developer tab and clicking Stop Recording. Okay, we have just recorded our second macro. Step 17, test each macro using the shortcut keys you assign to it. So if you remember, for the first one, we used the Control E. So if you hold down your Control key and hit the letter E, you will see that it will do the PDF. Now we can close the PDF and we're fine. So if that worked for you, great. For the second one, we're going to hold down the Control key and hit the letter D. And if it goes back to B3, you know that everything worked. Okay, no error messages came up. We love that. Step 18. In the Receipt worksheet, create the following macro buttons. 18A. For the PDF event macro, create a macro button over the range D10 to D11 with the label Print PDF Receipt. Okay. So we go back to the Developer ribbon and we go to this thing that looks like a briefcase and has the word Insert. I'm going to drop that arrow down and I'm going to choose the very, very top option, Button, parentheses, Form Control. I click on that. I'm not holding anything down. I simply clicked on it. It wants this button to be in D10, so I'm going to go right at the corner of D10, where I get that plus sign right in the corner. I'm going to click and hold down the left side of my mouse and draw a box down to D11. Now you can always resize it later if you need to. I'm going to let go, and I have to specify for this one that I want the PDF event to be the one that I want to run. So click on that. Don't just assume that what's up there is correct. Click on your macro, click OK. Now we have our first macro button, and it's got button 1 as the label. In order to change the label, we can highlight what's in there right now, or I guess not highlight it, won't let me, but if I hit my delete key a number of times to get rid of it, I can replace it with print space PDF space receipt. Click outside of it, and I'm not sure what their point was here, but if you can tell, it wasn't big enough. The box is not big enough to show it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it, get those sizing handles, and I'm going to bring it down just a little bit further, even though the instructions don't tell me to, so that I can see the full label. Now I'm going to basically repeat the exact same steps, but I'm going to add a button to run the transfer data macro. So I go back up to the Developer ribbon, drop this arrow down, click the button. I'm going to start it, this time I'm going to start it on D13. That's okay, even though the instructions say D12 to D13. I'm going to go to D13, D14. Let go. This time I have to pick the transfer data macro to make sure it runs that one. Click OK. Again, they want me to change the text in the button in the box because button 2 doesn't tell the user anything. And on this one, we're going to put transfer data. Okay. Now you can right-click and go to edit text if you clicked offside the button before you could change it. So no problem. So now we have 2 buttons to run our macros. That was step number 18. Step 19. Turn on cell protection for the receipt worksheet. So we've got the receipt worksheet, which we've never protected, but now we're going to. So we're going to go to Review, Protect Sheet. No password. Click OK. Step 20. Test the PDF event and transfer data macro buttons. So we can just click on this. Again, it creates my PDF. And this one just takes me back to B3. We're just going to have to assume that it worked. Step 21. We're going to become a programmer for the next 2 minutes. Edit the PDF event macro. So how we edit macros is you go to the developer ribbon and you go to the button that says macros. And you find the one they want us to work with, which is the PDF event, and we're going to click on Edit. Now, you're going to sit there and go, what the heck is this? This is the Visual Basic for Application code that was made while you were recording your macro. Luckily, we don't need to know much about this at all. But we're going to make a minor change. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And where it says range, so it says edit the PDF event macro. Scroll to the last lines of the macro in the line with the command range A1 select. Oh, there it is up there. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong macro. We want to make sure that we're not looking at the transfer data macro. We're looking at the very first macro. Range A1 select. We're going to change that to a B3. So I'm going to delete the A1 and change it to B3. You just became a macro programmer. You just changed programming language. I'm going to save my change, say yes, and then I'm going to close that Visual Basic for Application window. Okay. Step 22. Remove the Developer tab from the ribbon. You can do that if you want. I'll show you how to do it. I'm not going to like to do it. I always like to leave mine up there. It doesn't hurt. But if you want to remove it, you go to File, Options, all the way down at the bottom. You go back to the Customize ribbon, and you remove the check mark from Developer. You just uncheck that box and click OK. Again, I'm going to leave mine checked. We're going to save this file, Save As, and we're going to save it to wherever you save it. I save mine to my desktop. If you want to save it to a special folder, that's fine. But we're going to call this Youth Events with Macros, because this is really, really, really important. If you want to put a little asterisk next to step 23, we have to change the Save As type. And we're going to save it as Macro Enabled Workbook. So go down here until you can find Macro Enabled Workbook. Okay, I'm missing it. So Excel Macro Enabled Workbook. There it is. It gives it a special extension with the letter M at the end to say that, yes, macros are enabled on this workbook. Save it, and then you can close it. And that will wrap up my Part 2 video for Chapter 7, Developing an Excel Application. Thank you and have a great day.